before. Tomorrow is my partner's payday. I had enough money for gas, okay?
And I cannot afford to live.
Are you struggling with inflation? I think we all are.
So I've been seeing some pretty depressing videos lately of people just not being able to afford anything, having to live, I would say even beyond paycheck to paycheck, not being able to afford stuff for their children. I mean, you know, summer camps and even the food that they'll get at Walmart. So I'll be going over some videos and we'll talk about it. And I also have some comments from a previous video. So leave your comments down below and I'll pick some of them out for the next video, but we're just gonna get right into it.
So I just got back from the grocery store. That's what I got. I got 20 ramen noodles, okay, 2 pounds of beef, tortillas, seasoning, lettuce, tomato. That's $35 worth of groceries. I'm flabbergasted. This is fucking ridiculous, you guys. When are we gonna do something about this?
So I mean, $35 isn't a massive amount of money, but you saw right there, he got virtually nothing. Ramen noodle is supposed to be like dirt cheap. It's like a complete meme and like known as like a food that you have when you're in college when you're broke. So that has basically no value. The only thing that he got that would be expensive is that beef. It still ended up being $35 for noodles that are supposed to be dirt cheap. Other like random crap. I mean, tomato, lettuce, tortillas, like nothing special about any of these things, and it still ends up costing $35. We'll check out some of the comments in this video. In 2023, my wife and I made more money than we ever had before as adults, and now have less available cash than ever before. With almost 2,700 likes on that comment alone. 4 years ago, that'd be $15. Ramen noodles used to be a dime each, and another person just entered that list in my Walmart app. It's $46 in Nevada. Again, Walmart, which is cheaper than Target, which is cheaper than like Whole Foods and Wegmans and all of that, and was even more expensive if they lived in Nevada. We also have another comment from one of my previous videos. My mortgage was $11.43 a month for years and went up $350 a month in April just because of escrow and insurance. That's still cheap compared to some of these things, but that's still a 30% increase. I know people would still be really happy if their rent was only like $1,500 a month, but a 30% increase? My rent is $22.25 a month, and if I got that same increase, it would be almost $3,000. It'd be $28.92. That's an absolutely ridiculous amount of increase that quickly.
If your parents made $30,000 a year 40 years ago in 1983, you'd have to make $162,342 in 2023 just to have the same purchasing power adjusted for inflation. Think of it this way. Right now, I'm sitting at this desk, and there's $10,000 in cash. Physically, we're looking at it. I jump in a spaceship. I come back 4 years later, 5 years later. It'll look like $10,000, but feel like $7,000. What inflation erodes at the buying power of each and every dollar. So you have to understand that money is worth less, not worthless, but worth less than the year before.
Which is why everything is increasing so quickly. It's just the value of the item that you're buying is kind of always staying the same, but now because the dollar is worth less, you need more of those dollars to get the exact same item. And we have another comment from one of my older videos. Home rent insurance rates keep going up. It's slowly phasing out the middle class. And they're definitely right about that comment. And that adds into literally everything else also increasing in price. I mean, cars, mortgages, rent, groceries, any insurance in general, clothing. I mean, you name it. Even things that you obviously don't actually need, but magically every time when there's a new iPhone or Samsung Galaxy or whatever that comes out, there's always a price increase with the new iPhone. Same thing with like a camera that I'm using right now. Every time Sony or Canon comes out with the new cool model of a camera, it's more expensive than the previous version that came out just a few years ago, and it'll just keep going up and up.
Insurance up 33%, used cars up 35%, hotels up 15%, groceries.
The American dream is the American nightmare.
Why is everything so expensive?
Mortgage rates doubled. They're working 4 jobs and they're making $1,000 more than these people who aren't working at all. What the hell?
If we ran our household like the government did, we'd be in jail.
And I know a lot of people are struggling and are just on the borderline of poverty, even though they have degrees for a job that their teachers in high school and in college said were really good jobs and you're gonna make a whole ton of money. And shocker, that ended up being a lie. And now they're barely able to afford rent. But even for, I guess you would still call middle class, it's not even upper class or middle upper class now for how much everything's being spread out. But me personally, I am not living paycheck to paycheck. I made good enough decisions during COVID and was able to make a good amount of money, and now put it into high yield savings accounts where I can make actual passive money and have several resale business, YouTube channels, all of that make me revenue. But now I'm definitely not rich, but I would say that a lot of people who would be in my shoes would probably feel very comfortable, and I don't at all. I think the more money that I've made, the more that I've ended up hoarding it, everything into savings accounts and trying to save as much money as humanly possible. And all of these other things that I could, buy this thing to write off for the business, writing off my miles on my car. I'm doing like all of these things because of how much this kind of inflation has freaked me out. And I'm not even somebody who's really struggling out there. Now, again, I'm not somebody making $250,000 plus a year and driving around in a nice Mercedes or whatever, but I guess even being substantially above like the minimum wage salary that you'd get is still a part of the middle class now because of how much money you need to make to be considered like upper middle class or upper class and actually comfortable.
I'm gonna tell you how we are here in the United States of America. You know you're in the United States of America when you can buy this little amount of food and it costs you what it just cost me. I bought a bottle of coconut water, 2 things of mangoes, 2 things of blackberries, 2 things of raspberries, a thing of blueberries, some seaweed, and some seeded grapes for $70. And
I thought the top comment in this video was pretty on point. They want our money in the pharmaceutical industry. Now, I could probably make a whole separate video and put my tinfoil cap on and all of that. And it's more money to be able to treat a disease than to actually cure a disease. So if you start getting everybody really fat on super cheap, very unhealthy items instead of these fruits and vegetables and all of that, you could also get either them to have to pay out of pocket or their insurance company to pay for all their diabetes, insulin, and all of that, surgeries and pills you gotta take just to survive. So we could do a deep dive on that one day, but $70 for just like a whole bunch of fruit right there. And I'm not saying that Oreos and stuff are super cheap now, but they're definitely cheaper than all the healthy crap that he ended up getting for I mean, we're getting close to like triple digits right there for almost nothing.
I have been back in the United States for 2 days. I left a year ago and I have come back to these prices. It costs basically $6.50 for a toothbrush. Toothbrushes cost $6.76. What is it? $6.49 plus tax. So basically $7 for a toothbrush.
I thought this one was funny because I did the exact same thing when I came back from Japan. That was the first time I was ever out of the country. So I've only ever seen USD prices in whatever state I was in, but generally they're kind of similar, all right? But you go to some place like Japan that still has a very high quality of life and see how cheap everything is, especially with the conversion, because we just had US dollars to their yen. Drinks at their 7-Eleven were like $1 when it would be like $3 or $4 here now. Sandwiches, snacks, we would go to all you could eat like sushi places for like an hour and a half. It would only end up being like $19 per person. We went to one of the fancy sushi restaurants too, where it's like very tight and there's literally like only 10 people that could actually sit down. They make the food right in front of you and it's very nice. And that ended up being maybe, I think it was like $22 or $23 each. We went to barbecue places. I mean, we were getting street food and it would just be like a couple dollars. When like people are over the moon if they're like burger that they get at a restaurant with like virtually nothing on it other than 2 buns and a patty is like $12. And on this channel, I've avoided it for a while and I still do not want to get political because I bet my opinions would make both sides angry, and you know that whatever side you're on or if you're in the middle, people will just sit on their phone all day lobbing shots at the other side, even though nobody's going to change each other's opinions. You're just insulting each other over the internet and wasting your life away. But we do have a video talking about inflation from the president, and it honestly doesn't look good.
Mr. President, as you know, last Tuesday, the annual inflation rate came in at 8.3%. The stock market nosedive. People are shocked by their grocery bills. What can you do better and faster?
Well, first of all, let's put this in perspective. Inflation rate month to month was just an inch, hardly at all.
You're not arguing that 8.3 is good news.
No, I'm not saying it is good news, but it was 8.2 or 8.2 before. I mean, it's not. Maybe I can make it sound like all of a sudden, my God, it went to 8.2%. It's
the highest inflation rate, Mr. President, in 40 years.
I got that, but guess what we are? We're in a position where for the last several months, it hasn't spiked. It has just barely, it's been basically even.
Is the economy going to get worse before it gets better?
No, I don't think so. We hope we can have what they say, a soft landing, a transition to a place where we don't lose the gains that I ran to make in the first place for middle-class folks, being able to generate good-paying jobs and expansion.
And you would tell the American people that inflation is going to continue to decline?
No, I'm telling the American people that we're going to get control of inflation, and their prescription drug prices are going to be a hell of a lot lower, their health care costs are going to be a lot lower, their basic costs for everybody, their energy prices are going to be lower. So to continue to put people in a position to be able to make a decent living and grow and increase their capacity to grow.
So you know it's not a good look when one of the positive things is that it stayed at 8.2% for several months. People are happy right now that their high yield savings accounts are like at 4.5%. That's basically what mine's at, and inflation is almost double that. Now, I know people love to argue in the comments and go back and forth with politics, but I honestly don't think it really matters who is in the office. All of these politicians don't actually care. They want the power and the status. They want the control over people and the wealth that is not really supposed to come, but basically everybody just does insider trading and gets away with it, but God forbid any of us did that. I just believe both sides are completely crooked and will say and do anything just to get your vote. So this isn't a part of the video that's specifically attacking liberals, because honestly both sides are just as bad, but it seems like it will actually start becoming worse, because in the past few months, with all the prices, with inflation, people are finally just not buying stuff, and that's how a majority of America keeps afloat. We have to keep consuming and keep buying crap that we don't need. And when people have literally no money and maxed out credit cards and there's no possible way for them to buy shit, they actually finally have to stop.
Economists are panicking that now, unsurprisingly, consumers are pulling back on their spending. From March to April, consumer spending in the United States was virtually flat. It didn't really go up at all. Now, because consumer spending forms the backbone of the American economy, it has people starting to worry. But how is this a surprise? Remember, interest rates are sky high, and so is consumer credit card debt. Let's not forget that credit card interest rates are at an all-time high here in the United States. And we've also been seeing consumers start to default on their credit card bills at a high rate. That's why I've been warning for the last few months that American consumers clearly are maxed out. And this can't be any more obvious when you see how people are refusing to go out to eat now because it's just too expensive. So as far as the JP Morgan CEO's comments that the economy is booming, not US consumer spending. And the reality is that unless interest rates go down or wage growth miraculously boosts out of nowhere, we could be in this point for quite some time. Buckle up, everybody.
And we could take a look at some of the comments in this video. It's almost as if the middle class got eliminated because the rich want all the money, even though we're the real ones supporting this country. Another comment, you can't just grab dinner and drinks without dropping $100 per person. It's insane. And there's nothing to consume but bills. Now, I bet we're gonna be hearing this for a long time now, whether or not anything changes in the White House coming up this November, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I literally don't pay attention to politics at all. But whoever's in the White House come November, I bet we're still gonna have problems for at least the next year or two to come, because it's not like interest rates are instantly just going to go back to completely normal. It'll slowly get back to being better, hopefully. Same thing with inflation. So I guess the only advice you could really have is to just buckle down, but people have been doing that for quite a while now, and it's clearly not working. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and I'll talk to you guys later.